Okay, so we all know AI models are getting crazy powerful, right? But they're also, well, they're wildly unpredictable. So how do you actually take all that raw, chaotic power and make it reliable enough for the real world? Today, we're going to dive into Guardrails AI, a framework that's designed to do exactly that, to put a much-needed safety net on these powerful models.
I mean, really think about it for a second. Let's say you've built this amazing AI-powered customer service bot. But what happens when it starts just making up facts? Or even worse, it spits out something offensive. The moment you move from a fun little experiment to a real production app, these aren't just quirks anymore. They're critical failures that can totally tank your reputation and break your users' trust.
And that brings us right to the heart of the matter, AI's big reliability problem. We're talking about the dangerous and, yeah, frankly, the expensive flaws that pop up when these large language models are left completely unchecked.
You see, the fundamental issue with LLMs is that they're non-deterministic. They might just hallucinate facts, generate some really harmful content, return data in a completely busted format like bad JSON, or, and this is a frustrating one, just flat out ignore the careful instructions you gave it. Now, in development, that's maybe just an annoyance, but in production, sometimes failing is the exact same thing as always failing. You just can't build a reliable product on top of that kind of unpredictability.
So, if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, this is exactly where Guardrails AI enters the picture. The best way to think about it isn't as a new model, but more like an essential quality assurance layer that you wrap around the AI you're already using.
At its core, Guardrails is an open-source tool that basically acts as a gatekeeper. But it doesn't just block bad outputs. It actively validates them, it tries to correct them, and it makes sure that what comes out of your LLM is exactly what you need it to be. And the best part? It all happens automatically in the background.
This analogy right here just nails it. Using an AI without guardrails, it's like running a factory with zero quality control. Yeah, sure, most of your products might be fine, but you're knowingly shipping defective ones out to your customers. Guardrails, on the other hand, is like installing a fully automated inspection line. Every single output gets checked, and only the high-quality, correct ones are allowed to make it out the door.
Okay, so how does this automated inspection line actually work its magic? It really all boils down to three key pillars of protection that work together to enforce quality and, safety.
First up, you've got validation. This is where you set the rules. Is the output free of profanity? Is it factually on point? Is the tone right? Second, there's correction. Now, if an output fails one of those checks, Guardrails doesn't just give up. It can automatically retry, maybe with a slightly different prompt to get a better result. And third, there's structure. For developers, this one is huge. You can force the AI to return perfectly formatted data like a specific JSON schema every single time. No more guesswork.
And get this, you don't have to start from scratch. Guardrails comes with a library of over 30 pre-built validators for all the common stuff. Things like checking for toxicity, making sure code is actually executable, or even detecting if the AI is trying to badmouth its competitors. This means you get a ton of protection right out of the box.
All right, so that's the theory. Let's see how this actually builds from a concept into something you can use. How did teams take Guardrails and put it into practice in real live production systems?
Well, the primary users are pretty much exactly who you'd expect. You've got production engineering teams who live and breathe uptime and reliability. You've got AI safety and compliance teams, especially in regulated fields like finance or healthcare. And really, it's for any enterprise developer who has absolutely zero tolerance for AI errors getting in front of a customer.
One of the best things here is how accessible it is. Getting started isn't some complex multi-day integration. It's as simple as a single command. Pip install Guardrails-AI. That's it. This means you can start adding this critical safety layer to your project in minutes, not days.
Now, like any tool, it's super important to know when to use it and when not to. So let's talk about finding that right fit and figuring out if Guardrails is the solution that you've been looking for.
So here's the bottom line. If you are in production, if safety and compliance are totally non-negotiable, or if you absolutely need structured data, then Guardrails is built for you. But look, if you're just prototyping and messing around, or if your application can handle a pretty flexible output format, the extra overhead might not be necessary. It's also worth pointing out that all this validation adds a tiny bit of time, so if ultra-low latency is your number one, absolute top priority, that's a trade-off you gotta consider.
And when you look at the whole ecosystem of tools out there, you can really see where Guardrails carves out its own unique space. Tools like Instructor are fantastic, but they focus mostly on getting that structured output. Guardrails does that too, but its main differentiator is that deep, deep focus on validation and, critically, the automatic correction and retry logic. It's just a much more comprehensive safety system.
So, to wrap this all up, let's hit the key takeaways. First, Guardrails AI isn't another language model. It's that essential safety layer that sits on top of one. Second, its real power comes from that three-part combo of validating, automatically correcting, and structuring outputs. And finally, it's purpose-built for production systems where you simply cannot leave quality and safety up to chance.
And that leaves us with a final question to think about. As these AI models get more and more powerful and more integrated into everything we do, is this kind of rigorous output validation just a nice-to-have feature anymore? Or is it becoming an absolutely essential part of building responsible AI? I think the answer is becoming clearer every single day.